afternoon and welcome. Today is our final day at La Jornada Nacional 2023. My name is Ale Alfaro, your host for this event, organized by PRONI, the Mexican National Program of English, with the support of the British Council. As you know, you can go back to watch any of the sessions of the last 2 days, if you missed them, of course. We will have the sessions available until Friday the 3rd, November 3rd. And until then, you can watch them. Remember, we have all the sessions available until Friday, November 3rd. Okay? Remember, there, the QR codes from the previous day will be in the recordings. We have had a very enriching and positive environment during this event. So let me please remind you about our house rules. You are welcome to post your comments and questions in the chat, making sure that you maintain a respectful and positive communication. Remember that we have short 10-minute breaks between sessions at the end of the day, and you will see we will post the link and you will be able to see a QR code for the daily quiz. Remember, you must answer and register your participation. Please make sure that your name, surname, and email address are correctly spelled. Otherwise, you might not get your certificate. Today, we will begin our sessions with a workshop by Grace Busy. Grace is a teacher and academic manager based in Mexico City. Since completing her Delta in 2014, she has taught English in Turkey, Vietnam, and Mexico. While at the British Council in Vietnam, she completed her TILEC and Trinity Deep TESOL, then moved to a senior teacher position in Mexico, where she was also a course tutor for TILEC. Welcome, Ms. Grace.
Hi there, everybody. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. So yes, my name is Grace, and I'm really excited to be with you all here today. In this session, I'd like it to be as interactive as possible. So please do write some comments, and I will try to read and respond to as many of them as possible. In this session, we're going to be looking at integrating culture and authenticity, focusing on speaking and listening instruction. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to give your ideas, ask questions, but let's get started then. I'm going to show you exactly what we'll focus on in today's session. So our session aims are to first start by discussing the benefits of integrating culture and authenticity into language learning. So think a little about why we should try to do this. Give an overview of how you can do this in the classroom, and also provide some practical ideas for class activities. So there'll be lots of different ideas discussed in this session today, and hopefully there'll be some that you can take away and try for yourself. And we will also consider how to make these activities effective in your classroom. So have some considerations in mind for how we can get the most out of these activities. So I would like to begin by asking you all a question, and that is, what is cultural integration in language instruction? Think about this and then write a definition in the comments. We might have slightly different answers to this question, and that's okay. But to you, what does that mean when you are teaching language? What does it mean to have cultural integration? So I'll give everyone a moment to think about that, and then let me know in the comments what this means to you. So don't worry if you don't all have the same ideas. We'll probably have quite different ones. So cultural integration in language instruction, what exactly does that mean to you? So we have a couple of people, lots of people saying hello. So great. Okay, got some good words coming up here. So enrichment, fortification. So that's an interesting idea. Talking about traditions. Absolutely. Being able to teach and learn culture along with the language. Nice. various cultures, teaching traditions. We already had that one. Good. Yes, that's a great one. More than just teaching grammar. To adopt essence of another culture. I like that one. Very good. Share different cultures. Diversity. Excellent. Okay. Yeah, brilliant. So bringing our own culture and traditions into the classroom. Great. These are all really good ideas. Now, I liked everything that everyone said. I'm just going to show you the definition I have here. And I think you've all touched on this. So it refers to including cultural elements, and that could be customs, traditions, social norms into the curriculum to provide a holistic language learning experience. So like someone said, not just teaching grammar, not just saying, okay, today we're going to learn the present perfect, but actually integrating that into a context where we might include discussion of customs, traditions, or even social norms. So this is what we are meaning when we talk about cultural integration. So now, my question to you, what are the benefits of this? So the benefits of integrating culture and authenticity into speaking and listening activities. Write your ideas in the comments. What are the benefits? So I'm sure you can think of a few, and it will be great to see the different ideas that we have. Why is this important? Why is it a good idea? Help students to understand language and promote cultural awareness and sensitivity. Lovely. I love that answer. Great. Learning about different cultures. Students feel more interested. Yes, I definitely agree with that. Makes the learning authentic. Helps with participation. Yeah, this is great. Contextualize lessons, relevant learning experiences. Yep. And so that students relate the content to their context. Good. Yeah, so I should also mention that in some of the activities we talk about today, we're going to be focusing on how you can integrate different cultures, not just English-speaking countries, but from all over the world. But there's no reason why it can't be the culture that the students are in already, in this case being Mexico. So any cultures could apply to these activities today. Good, so learners have the opportunity to learn about different people all over the world. Diversity, great. These are really good ideas and I agree with all of them. Let me show you some of the benefits that I thought about. I think people have already mentioned a few. So help students to understand the context that the language is used in. So instead of just looking at an isolated grammar point, they can understand how that grammar point is used in context. Improves their ability to understand and use colloquial language and idiomatic expressions. So if you're focusing on teaching specific phrases or idioms in English, you can show how they are used in specific countries. It can improve their speaking confidence, so it encourages students to express themselves, share their experiences, and hopefully engage in meaningful conversations. And also can help improve their listening skills. So when students are exposed to authentic spoken language, this is more beneficial to them than your standard coursebook audios. And I'm sure everyone is familiar what I mean when I say those standard coursebook audios. They're not very natural. Sometimes they can be useful, but it's great also to expose our students to authentic spoken language. We've also got, it promotes cultural awareness, empathy, and understanding of other cultures. Makes language learning more practical and applicable to everyday life. This is where the authenticity comes in. And encourages authentic interactions that would happen in real life situations, which of course is essential for effective communication. So for example, if you're doing some kind of role play activity, you are simulating something that would happen in real life, which makes the language learning experience a lot more valuable. And it can also help to make language more memorable. I think everyone would agree that when language is presented in a context, especially a context that's relatable or that the students are interested or curious in, that then helps to make the language they learn more likely to stick. So lots of benefits. Now, what does this look like in the classroom? Before I give you my ideas, I'd like to hear some of your ideas. How could you integrate culture and authenticity into your class activities? Try to focus on ideas for speaking and listening, as this is the focus of today's session. So let me know your ideas. Could be something that you've done in the past that you thought was a really great activity that incorporated culture and authenticity. So focusing on English language instruction, ideally speaking and listening. What have you tried? Or some ideas that you have? So learning about other cultures and then comparing, great. That's actually one of the things we're going to talk about today. Tradition topics, projects, absolutely. Using music, videos, thinking about traditions in other countries. Yeah, lots of people saying videos, great. Wonderful. Considering other students' context, great. Using lots of visuals. Yeah, lots of people are mentioning about contextualizing activities. Listening to cultural music of different countries is lovely. And yeah, comparing, speaking about habits, routines. Yeah, so having discussions. Great. Oh, I like that someone's put a really specific example here talking about, oh, I've lost it. It was talking about Mayan traditions using the past simple. So that's a great idea for integrating culture with a specific language point. Great, lots of lovely ideas. So let's move on then. So we're going to give an overview, talk generally, and then talk more specifically. So firstly, something you can do is try to choose culturally relevant topics. Think about your students and what is relevant to them. So it can be quite difficult, especially if you're teaching much younger learners, but trying to choose something that's culturally relevant. Multicultural dialogue. So when you are presenting your learners with some kind of listening activity, thinking about the voices that they're listening to, the places that they're from. They don't have to be native English speakers because, of course, as we know, English is spoken all over the world by many different people with lots of different accents. It's good to expose your students to all those different types of dialogue. Cultural interviews, so this could be listening to people, interviewing others about some kind of tradition in their culture, their food, their hobbies, or even doing this as a role play activity, having students, well, if you're lucky to have a group of students who come from lots of different backgrounds, that's great, but they could even assume the persona of someone from a different place and then take turns interviewing each other. News and current events. So obviously trying to think carefully about the type of news and current events that you're going to present your students with, but trying to select topics that are at the correct level and are perhaps interesting for your students, looking at events from all over the world, trying to select events that they'd be interested in, and obviously making sure that it's appropriate for your group. Cultural comparisons, lots of people have already mentioned this, so not just learning about one other culture, but comparing it to their own culture, or even everyone finding out about lots of different cultures and comparing it together. So this is spontaneous and authentic discussion while also learning about different cultures. Cultural role plays, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. And then we have a few more, so presentations, listening to authentic materials. So few people have mentioned music, but there are, of course, many different types of listening materials you can use, and we'll look at some specific examples in a moment. Cultural stories and myths, and quizzes and challenges. So students love to be challenged, different types of quizzes and activities that could even be competitive, finding out about different cultures and reporting back. There's many ways that you can make it into a game. And of course, when you do that, it does help to make the learning experience more fun and memorable. So I've mentioned a little bit about the materials we use being authentic, but let's just think about this in a bit more detail. So I'd like everyone to give some ideas of activities or materials that would not be considered authentic. So an example that I could provide would be an exchange between two people. Perhaps let's take your kind of the general restaurant dialogue. That's a very common one, but it's been recorded by two actors. So it's not a natural interaction. It's been deliberately recorded, let's say, for your course book. That would not be considered authentic. So what would not be considered? Yes, exactly. People are putting exercises from the book. And I would just like to say that, of course, we do all use course books and they are sometimes necessary and useful. I'm not saying you shouldn't use course books. It's just about supplementing them with some authentic materials as well. So yeah, lots of people putting the same thing. The materials that have been made to teach language, yeah. Flashcards, yeah, I mean, flashcards are images, they can be useful for teaching vocabulary, but yes, not necessarily an authentic, like a photo. Yeah, we've got lots of people saying the same ideas. Books, depends on the book. But yes, I'm just having a look through. Yeah, lots of people do seem to agree that those course book audios, not so authentic. What about activities? Can anyone think of a specific activity that you might do sometimes that's not that? Yeah, grammar activities. Yeah, like fill in the blanks type of grammar activities. Complete or answer exercises. Yeah, I think we all know the types of exercises that we're talking about. So as I said, sometimes there is a place for those, but it's really important to supplement. So let's talk then about what is authentic. First, I'm going to talk about input. What I mean by that is materials that your students are reading, watching, or listening to. And in this case, we want to try and use authentic materials and ideally from different cultures so that they have a range. So we've got video, of course, movies, TV, YouTube, TikTok, if that's still relevant these days, I'm pretty sure it is. News, maybe for older students, even adverts. All of this is authentic video material. Audio, so real world dialogue, not those textbook audios, but if you can find on YouTube an authentic exchange between two people, there's a real world dialogue. Podcasts, again, probably for older students, and music can be included in that as well. And then we have text. So that's going to be books, websites, posters, articles, any text that's not been specifically written for your course book. And there's a lot of different authentic text out there. And of course, the internet is a great source for all of that. So that's our input, what students are receptively absorbing. And then we have our output. So this involves setting real life tasks that require students to respond to the input. And that could be in the form of a simple discussion, giving their opinion. That's an authentic task. Debate. So having group debates can also be a fun one. Presenting ideas, acting and role play. So this can count as an authentic task if you're giving them perhaps a role play situation that they would actually do in real life and trying to use language that is natural. And project work, because of course project work can be done in groups and that encourages authentic communication between groups. They might be problem solving, planning, negotiating. All of that naturally occurs in project work. So we've got our input and our output. Now I'm going to present to you some ideas for activities that would integrate culture and authenticity, one or the other or both. As we go along, if you have any comments about each of the activities, I would love to hear them. So think about how you can make this work in your classroom. And the first group of activities I'm going to cover involve using video. So perhaps movie clips, TV clips, or videos from YouTube, which are the most easily accessible. Now, before I actually present some ideas, I'd like to know how you use video to integrate culture and authenticity in your class. So as I'm going along, we also get a list of ideas building up in the comments, because there are so many different ideas. I'm just going to give you a few, but you might have lots more. So as I talk about my ideas, please give yours in the comments and I'll take a look at them at the end. So I'll just give you a moment there. Okay, wonderful. Let's continue. So first, using movie trailers, and these should be easily accessible on YouTube. So first, you select some trailers for upcoming movies. Now they do have to be in English because we are, of course, talking about English instruction. And then students simply watch and discuss which is their favorite, which one looks funny, scary, sad, which one do they not want to watch. You're just having a spontaneous, natural discussion responding to the movie trailers. And an extension activity of this could be that students go away and perhaps for homework find movie trailers to share in the next class. Now, the benefits of this activity is that it promotes spontaneous discussion using authentic sources. So your input, that's the movie trailers, that's an authentic source, and their output, which is the discussion, is going to be an authentic type of speaking activity. Because of course, in real life, when you are looking at movie trailers, perhaps discussing them with friends, family, that's an authentic speaking or communicative task. So that's our first one, movie trailers. Next one, what is happening? So that is the name of the activity, what is happening? Here, you need to find a short video clip and play it with the sound off. Make sure it's not too long, but it's very important that the first time they watch it, there's no sound. Students watch and they say what they think is happening. So it's that simple. And an extension of this would be, before you show them the clip to see if they were correct, you could get them to, well, either write or even act out the dialogue before they watch it with the sound on. So they've watched a video clip, there's no sound, they go away, they think about what's happening. If you have a really enthusiastic group, you can get them to act out the dialogue and then watch it and see if they were correct. Now, the benefit of this activity is that it helps to spark curiosity. So telling students they're going to watch something with no sound, they immediately see it and they want to know what's happening and they want to give their ideas, what's happening in this video. And then, of course, there's the excitement when they finally do watch it and see what's happening. So there we go. That is what is happening. How-to videos. So for this activity, your students need to choose a topic they're interested in. It could be how to cook, even how to train your dog, how to do your hair, how to do your makeup, something that they're interested in. And now this activity does require the use of YouTube and or TikTok, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But if they're able to, they need to find videos on their chosen topic. I think anyone on social media knows that there are so many of these types of videos out there. Short, how to cook something or how to do your hair. They're very popular. And then the students plan and act out their own how-to video using the one they've watched as some inspiration. And an extension activity of this could be even to try it out at home, but of course you can't really control that. It just makes it a bit more fun. Now, the benefit of this activity is that it really can be tailored to the student's individual interests. And of course, we've got that authentic input. Videos, how-to videos are everywhere. They are very authentic. And even encouraging your students to respond to that input by making their own authentic how-to video, that's a really nice way of using that type of material. So there we go, how-to videos. Now, a quick comment is that obviously you might not always have easy access for your students to go on YouTube or even social media in class. It could be that there are certain restrictions on that. But a way to adapt this activity would just be take out that stage. So take out the stage where they look for videos for inspiration and just tell them to produce one. The next one is adverts. So adverts, The idea for this is that you try to show them a selection of TV adverts from English-speaking countries, because of course it does need to be in English. And ideally, because we're talking about young learners, choose adverts with humor, because that's going to appeal to them much more. Don't choose something boring. Fortunately, many adverts do use humor. Discuss with the students which ones are the best and why. And then they can choose a product, any product they like, give them freedom here, and then they can plan or even act out their own TV advert for that product. And an extension activity of this could be to compare the adverts from different countries. So you've looked at adverts perhaps from the US, and then you've looked at one from the UK. I can tell you for a fact they are quite different. See if your learners can pick up on those slight cultural differences in something as basic as an advert. And the benefits of this is that it gives them an insight into a part of culture they wouldn't normally see. So they all see TV shows, they all see movies, but how many of your learners have seen adverts? It is important that you're choosing ones that are ideally funny or that you know will interest your learners in some way, because that can make the difference between a successful and not so successful activity. Next, we have acting. So this one's quite simple. All they have to do is choose a scene from one of their favorite movies. If the movie is not in English, that's okay, as long as the activity happens in English. They need to assign characters in their group and act out the scene. And the idea with this is that their classmates will watch and try to guess the movie. So they can't tell each other, they can't tell the other groups what the movie is until they've done it. The benefits of this is that it can be personalized based on students' own movie preferences, and getting the rest of the class to guess the movie gives them a reason to pay attention. So you might have found in the past, when you're trying to get your class to pay attention to other groups of students while they present or they do something, it's difficult, they don't pay attention. But if they're trying to guess the movie, it gives them a reason to pay attention. So that really makes a difference. Now I'm just going to take a moment to have a look and see if we've had any ideas in the comments, because I can see lots of people writing how to use video. So yeah, some people mentioning TikTok. And it is important to know what type of media your students are consuming. So if TikTok is still the popular thing of the day, use it to your advantage. And I did see someone comment that in their school they don't have a laptop in order to do that. So obviously that does make it difficult if you can't actually show a video, but you can still talk about it. So for instance, if you're not able to show a movie trailer, you ask the students to have a discussion about movie trailers they've already seen or movies that they know are coming out soon. So it's about adapting it as much as you can. Great. Okay, and I can see another person saying they don't have a TV. Another solution is, instead of watching something on the TV, use your class to act it out themselves. You do need to have quite a lot of participation and enthusiasm from your group, but getting them to act out a movie scene can perhaps be even more fun than watching one. So next, we're going to talk about music. And once again, if you have ideas or comments on how to use music in your class, please do let me know. So yeah, as we go along, think, how could you use music to integrate culture and authenticity in your class? Lots of people saying singing is the best. Yes. So the first one is song reviews. Now, listen to songs from different countries, and the idea is that you discuss it. So they're giving verbal reviews. They're not writing anything. Which ones do they like the best and why? And also, how are the songs different in each country? So comparing, and again, we do need to make sure they're in English, because this is, of course, talking about what to do in English class, but there's many, many English language songs from different countries that you could find. And next, an extension activity could be to assign everyone a country. They go home, so this would be a homework activity, and they have to find a song from that country, and then they play it for the class in the next lesson. Now, you would need to have some way of playing music, but even if you were to just use your phone and play the music from your phone, if you don't have another way of doing it, that would still be fine. And the benefits of this, of course, music is a really big part of any country's culture. So this activity can give learners a great insight. And it's great as well if you try to avoid countries that they already know the music from. So, for example, there's a lot of music coming from the US. Maybe you could even take that out as not being an option to get them to explore music from other cultures that they might not know. The next is the classic listen and fill the gaps. This activity requires you to prepare by creating or printing out the song lyrics, but you need to delete some of the words. And the students listen to the song and they have to listen and write the missing words. And then afterwards, an extension activity would be to discuss the meaning of the song. Do they like it? Why or why not? What do these specific lyrics mean? And of course, the benefit of this is that it gives them a chance to develop their listening skills, but they're using authentic material. And another benefit that I didn't list here is that your students probably do listen to a lot of music in English. And what I've found is that they really like it if they can sing the words, and even more if they actually understand what the song is about. So it should be really motivating for them. They want to listen to the song and they want to know what their favorite songs are actually about. We then have karaoke. Now, I'm not going to explain to you what karaoke is. I'm sure everyone knows. You are going to need some way, ideally, of playing the song and having the lyrics. So if you haven't got access to YouTube in the class, then it would require you to maybe print out the lyrics on a piece of paper so they can just listen and sing. However, you need to adapt it for your class. But this can be used as a reward for good behavior. If you have those kinds of systems in your class where they get some kind of group reward if they've behaved particularly well. The students can work in groups and take turns singing. They could even vote for the best group. And really, this works well with students who enjoy singing. If you don't have that type of group, it's not really going to work. You need that group who are happy to sing. And of course, I would never suggest making one student sing by themselves unless they want to. So that's why working in groups, if you have a shy student who doesn't want to, they don't have to sing, they can just mime the words. But the point is that they're all involved. Song writing. So this does require writing, so it's not just a listening and speaking activity, but they choose their favorite song and they need to produce the lyrics for another verse of that song. Now, they could even choose a song that's not originally in English, but of course, the lyrics for their other verse should be in English. They can share their songs, they can vote for the best, and the benefit of this is that they can choose any song they like. I've put here as long as it's in English, as long as the extra verse they write is in English. So just taking a look in the comments here before we move on to books and stories. Yeah, lots of people saying that children are very creative, and it's great to give them an opportunity to show that creativity. And someone else has said that they put music on for their students while they're working. I definitely agree with that. It's an excellent idea. They can choose the songs they like. And yeah, if you are able to connect your phone to a speaker and play music, that's wonderful. Really nice idea. Create their own playlist. I love that. That's a really nice idea. Someone has put, be careful with the song chosen. Yeah, you do want to make sure you're not playing something with inappropriate lyrics. But yeah, like people are saying, children love listening to music, so use that to your advantage. Use it to motivate them to learn English at the same time. So now let's talk about books and stories. And once again, as we go through, let me know your ideas. So how can you use books and stories to integrate culture and authenticity? So have a think about that, and then we will take a look. Okay, so my first idea is book club. You might already have something like this in your school. Now, this requires your students to have the book, which might not be possible. You might have the books in school. So however you need to adapt this, if you read it in class or at home, but the idea is you come together to discuss it as a group. What do they learn even about the place that the book is set in? So here we can integrate a bit of culture as well as authenticity. If you're reading a book that's from a place that people don't know, perhaps it's set in some far off place in the middle of England that no one's ever heard of, what do they learn about that place? And an extension could even be to do a bit of research about the place from the story and then discuss it in the next class. So a lot of the time we focus a lot on the story and the characters. What about focusing on the setting? What can you learn about the place that the story is set in? And this, of course, promotes that authentic discussion, the authentic response, and it can lead to so many other activities where they're having to respond to what they've read. We have character interviews. Students choose their favorite character in a story, but the story should be from another country or another culture. They take turns to interview each other acting as their characters, so they are assuming the persona of that character. Now, acting can help your shyer students practice their English because they're playing a character. This can sometimes help if you do have a shy student. If they are acting and they're playing a different person, that can actually help with their confidence in speaking another language because they are assuming a different character. So that is one of the benefits to this. And of course, if you're focusing on characters from different countries, that's great too. And then as a kind of follow on from that, we have acting, which can be used in so many different ways. So one example, they could choose a scene from a story and simply act it out. Now, an extension activity of this, which could be quite fun, how would the scene be different if it happened in another country? They could act out even different versions of the story. So how would this story be different if it happened in Mexico City compared with, let's say, Australia, in the outback of Australia, or even on the beach in Egypt? Those are the first countries that came to my mind. So, you know, very different places. How would the story change? Even how the characters would be dressed, what they would say, what they'd be eating, what they would be doing, what the scenery would look like. So it brings to life these different cultures in quite a fun way. So benefits, it of course encourages creativity and consideration of other cultures. So before I move on to the final one, which is cultural topics, I'm just going to have a little look. Oh, someone's put a lovely idea, Cinderella in Mexico. Exactly. How would Cinderella be different if it happened in Mexico? Maybe some of the animals in the story would be different. Maybe the way that she's dressed would be different. Exactly. That's a really nice idea. Good, lovely. Thanks everyone for your comments. Let's move on to the final one now, which is cultural project. So once again, how could you use cultural projects to integrate culture and authenticity in your class? Think about that as we go along. First, cultural thing that we can consider, events and festivals. The students can research an event or festival from another country and produce a presentation to share with the class. And the important thing with this type of activity is that we can discuss the similarities and differences between the countries. Are there some countries that have similar types of food? Is the music very different between country A and country B? So thinking about the events and festivals and how things are celebrated and everything that goes along with that. Now, a benefit of this type of activity is it can be done as a group project, and that encourages collaboration and teamwork, which again is that authentic type of task I mentioned a little bit earlier. So they might be negotiating with each other, solving a problem, working as a team. All of that is authentic use of the language. So not only are they integrating culture, but also authenticity. Food and recipes. Students find a traditional dish from a country and research how to make it. And they can then give a presentation, or you can do that TikTok how-to video, which might appeal to your learners a little bit more. So again, thinking about what works for your group, what would they like to do? Now, the benefit here, of course, it promotes the obvious understanding of other cultures. What do people eat in different countries? How is that different to here in Mexico? Oops. And yeah, let me just see a few people talking about recipes. Thanksgiving, yeah, exactly. So choosing a specific type of celebration. So right now it's October, so the obvious would be Halloween, and then I guess, yep, Thanksgiving, if you wanted to focus on traditions in the US. Exactly, great. Next, we have news report. In this one, this would involve finding out about a current news story. Now, this I think would be more appropriate for slightly older learners because, of course, your sort of really young learners and your primaries, they're not necessarily going to be interested in the news. So make sure it's pitched at the right level. But then they can talk about the story in the style of a real news report. Now, an alternative, perhaps more fun idea would be to make up the story instead. But the idea is, what country are they in? What's happened? So making it culturally relevant to whatever context they've chosen. They could even be assigned different countries to set their news report in. So this could come after a more in-depth project where they've found out about different countries or different cultures so that they already have that knowledge and then they already maybe know. And this can be made fun if you encourage them to make up funny stories. So if you decide to let them be creative and make up the news story, then it can be fun if they try to make them funny. And you can even say they're going to vote at the end for the funniest story. We have country research projects. Now, in this one, it's nice to give students choice. Which country are they interested in learning about? So it could be that you have a particular group of students in your class who are really interested in, let's say, Japan. And you already have perhaps observed this in the class. This is a great opportunity to give them the freedom to research about that country. And prepare a presentation. Now, I've said prepare a presentation. It's the kind of obvious thing with this. But if you weren't doing a speaking activity, it could simply be creating something like a poster or even an infographic. So I've done a speaking activity, but there are different ways you can do this. Compare the countries and then build a list of how they're similar or different. So we have that country comparison again. The benefits here is that it deepens cultural understanding of other countries and people. There's so many things that you can go with here for a country research project, and you can make this last for an entire term. 1 week you focus on the food, the next week you focus on the natural places, the cities, the people, the clothes. There's so much you can do with this, and you can make it last a really long time. And then we have myths and folktales. So they need to find a myth or folktale from another country, or you find it for them. What can they guess about the values, customs, and traditions of that country based on the story? So here you're just giving them the story. And again, instead of focusing on maybe the story itself, look at the characters, look at the setting. What can they guess about the country? So folktales and myths can tell us a lot about a country. So that is one that you could do. Stories, of course, capture learners' imaginations and they encourage creative thinking. And once again, it is that authentic response to authentic source. Now, okay, I've talked about a lot of different activities, and I'm just going to scroll through the comments because we've had some people making really great suggestions. A project based on the information of their community. Excellent. Yes, so like I said, it doesn't have to be culture from other places. It can be focusing on the culture where they are, so they can think about their own community and make a project based on that. I like that idea a lot. Good. Oh, someone just referring back to the songs, saying that it facilitates pronunciation and increases vocabulary. It absolutely does. I really agree with that. Literary commentary is a good idea. Yep. So many good ideas. Thank you, everybody. Now, I would like to ask, of all the activities we've looked at today, which one would you like to try in your class? Write your favorite one in the comments. I would love to hear which one or which ones you would like to try. Lots of people liking the traditions, and yeah, of course, talking about things like Day of the Dead, which is coming up soon. You can use that as a starting point for some kind of project work in your class. Excellent. So yeah, please do let me know in the comments your favorite activities. Now, we are slightly running out of time, so I'm just going to go through some final considerations with these activities. Now, many of them allow students to be independent and make their own choices. While this is positive, of course, there are some important considerations to ensure that the activity is successful. So firstly, the type of student. Now, we did talk a little bit about shyer students. They might not enjoy activities which require them to present their ideas. And I think someone did comment on this. Consider allowing those students to work as part of a group. As soon as they're in a group, they almost have a security, a bit of a buffer, which can really help them. Stronger learners might dominate if you're doing group work. So make sure that in any kind of project work, your stronger, more confident learners are monitored. And some students might even struggle when given free choice. So a lot of these activities allow them to think of their own ideas, think of a country, think of a song. But for the ones that don't like that free choice, have some options available. So you might say, okay, you can choose from Japan, Australia, South Africa, and France. For example, you're just helping them a little bit more with making that choice. So once again, choice and personalization, make sure you set boundaries where appropriate. So if you know that your students are going to go in a certain direction, have boundaries in place that can keep them within the limits of the task if needed. Sometimes giving them choice can complicate things. It can even take longer. So consider allowing them to choose from a list, like I said, instead of having complete freedom. And do allow extra thinking time. If you're asking your learners to think of an idea from scratch, they will probably need a little bit of time to think. Devices. Now, some people have mentioned this. Some of these activities require learners to access the internet. Ensure that you have the capabilities for this, and if not, adapt accordingly. Carefully monitor any use of social media. So we've talked a little bit about TikTok. Be careful with this. Some activities can be filmed. We've talked about the news report, the acting, any kind of filming that's going on in your classroom. Just make sure that you're aware of the policy in your school and that you've got that parental consent. Independence. So many of these activities provide learners with a degree of independence. Ensure that they've got support because they are still going to need support and structure from you. Set time limits, so ensure that they stay on track. And finally, props. Now, in those role-playing or acting activities that I mentioned, using props can make a really big difference. For example, you're asking them to do a news report, get them to make a microphone or even use something in the class as a microphone. You'll be amazed how much difference that can make. Allow them time to create their props or provide them yourself. And encourage students to use them during the activity. I promise you'll see the difference. So to end, integrating culture and authenticity into language instruction has many benefits that we've talked about. Using authentic video, audio, and text will help your students to enjoy the language learning process. And it's essential that you consider your own learners and your own classroom and context and adapt activities accordingly. So I think that brings us to the end. We are just out of time. Oh, and always ensure your learners are supported. I'm just going to leave you here with a reflection because I think that is now the end of the session. But I would just like everyone to reflect on what we've looked at today and put your answers to these two questions in the comments. So what have you learned about integrating culture and authenticity in speaking and listening instruction, and which ideas will you use in your own class? Write your answers into the comments. I would love to see them all. I do hope that you found this session useful. I'm not sure if we have time for a Q&A. If we have time for questions, please feel free to write your questions in the comments. I'll answer any that I can. Oh, okay, yes, we do. We have another 10 minutes. That's excellent. Okay. Well, so we can use these final 10 minutes then. I'm going to have a look through the comments. If anyone's got some questions, then please do put them in because we have plenty of time to answer them. So let me go through. Okay, so people mentioning other areas of culture, so things like diversity, science, technology, health. I didn't even talk about those, but yeah, when we are integrating culture, there's so many directions we can take it. Good, let me just have a look here. Someone said I'd like to use all of them. Great, I'm really happy to hear that. Good. Okay, let me have a look here. Yeah, exactly. So when we integrate culture, it can be fun. And that is really important because when students are having fun, that's when they learn best. Yeah, really good. So I'm just seeing if there's any particular questions. Okay, so Martin's saying, learnt new ideas to activities in the classroom, adapting them in the context of my students. Good. Flavia said, we have many opportunities to integrate culture in the class. Yeah, good. Isella learnt many activities to innovate. Great, I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah, and Veronica said, I like the idea of using trailers and the TikTok videos. Yes, I think we can all agree that as a teacher of young learners, you do have to stay informed about what's relevant in their lives. So of course, if they are all on TikTok, how can you use that in your English classes? Because it's a really great opportunity. And that's another thing that I didn't really mention, but there's a lot of content on social media and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Now, of course, you don't want to be in a situation where you've just got your students sitting there on TikTok not doing anything. It needs to be structured and monitored. So you need to give clear boundaries, clear instructions. But if you can use that to then help them with some kind of speaking activity in English, it's definitely valuable. Okay, I'm just having a look here. So Karina has given a good idea, playing bingo with food from different countries. I like that idea. Okay, so I'm imagining you would have to find all the food from the different countries and put the food on the bingo card and then say the name of the country. And then if they have that food, they shout bingo. I think, Corinna, that is what you mean, and that's an excellent idea. Okay, I'm glad that it's helping. Lots of people saying they've got ideas. Someone's mentioned about recording. So yeah, we did talk about some activities where they would maybe act out a scene from a movie or a news report. It will depend on the policies in your specific school as to whether you can record things like that. And some students might not like it, so you always have to make sure that they've got choice there. But yeah, it can really help to motivate them. Yeah, a few people mentioning bingo. Country bingo, yeah, absolutely. Good. a few people commenting on recipes. Okay, I can see a question here. So, I've lost it. Hang on. Miguel asked how to set presentations to large classes. What is the best time allowed for each? So, Miguel, I'm assuming you mean, okay, if you've got a large class and you have to have each group giving a presentation, yes, I know exactly what you mean. It can take a really long time to get through the groups. And also you can find the attention of your class wandering. The time allowed, it really depends on how many groups you have, but and also how old your learners are. If you've got much younger learners, you want to make the presentations much shorter. So if you're doing a country project, you could perhaps have, let's say, 4 or 5 people in a group, and each person speaks for 1 minute. It can be as short as that. So each presentation is only 5 minutes. But an important thing with setting up those presentations in large classes is that the rest of the students have a task to do while they're watching, so that they need a reason to be listening. Otherwise, they will all zone out and fall asleep unless you have really motivated learners. So yeah, I would say, Miguel, only maybe 5 minutes per group. Unless you have a smaller group, you could perhaps extend it and make sure the rest of your group, the rest of your learners have something to do. It could be listen and guess the country they're talking about, or as you listen, write down one interesting thing about that country that you then sort of pick on them afterwards. So what did you write down? What did you find interesting? They need that reason to listen. Okay, let me just see if there's any other questions. Someone's asking my name. My name is Grace. It should be written under there. My name is Grace. Okay, so a few people asking about resources. Okay, that's a really good question. So websites that they can use. Let me just take a moment to think. Okay, so I would say a website that I often go to for things like this is the BBC website, and I can't think of the actual name right now, but they have a specific English learning platform for younger learners. I'm just going to Learning English, of course. So BBC Learning English can be really good. There is, of course, the British Council, and I'm just going to check that it still has the same name, because it always used to be called Learn English Kids. Yes. So we have Learn English Kids from the British Council. And the thing about that is that you can go on there and there can be things like stories, articles, things for different age learners that might be useful. If you've got slightly older learners, then National Geographic Kids. So that's National Geographic is great for learning about different countries, but you want National Geographic Kids because, of course, it will be pitched at slightly younger learners. So that's really important. I'm just going to have a look and see. Yeah, good. I'm glad that was helpful. And of course, if you've got any ideas of websites that you've used in the past that have been good to you, please do put them in the comments so other people can learn about those as well. For music, for much younger learners, so we're talking learners from, well, I'm thinking about your age, so maybe 4 to 7 years old, so your younger primary learners. My favorite YouTube channel is Super Simple Songs. I think probably everyone knows that one, but if not, Super Simple Songs is great for really young learners. So if you're wanting to use music with much younger children, that is my favorite YouTube channel and I really recommend it. Great. Just taking a look to see if there's any final questions. No, I don't think so. I'm glad everyone found it useful. Thank you for participating. And yeah, hi, Alan.
Hello, thank you very, very much, Grace. This was a very wonderful workshop, and I'm sure all of the teachers appreciate all of the resources that you have shared with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Everybody, well, I'm pleased to invite you to BBuilt 2024 conference, which will be online. Registrations will be free and open in November. I really hope to see you there. Now it's time for a short break. Please meet me and our next speaker at 4:10. Bienvenidos. Nuestra siguiente ponente dará su sesión en español. Carla Joana Hernández Pérez. Ella es egresada de la Escuela Normal Superior de México. Tiene licenciatura y especialización en la enseñanza del inglés como lengua extranjera. Fue becaria de Comexus y participó en un programa de desarrollo profesional en la Universidad Estatal de Nuevo México. Cuenta con estudios en lingüística aplicada por parte de la UNAM y es miembro de la Online Professional English Network. Es maestra en cognición y desarrollo académico en la Universidad de La Rioja en México. La mayor parte de su experiencia docente ha sido con estudiantes universitarios y adultos, aunque su carrera profesional también ha incluido la instrucción de jóvenes estudiantes. Demos la bienvenida a Carla Joana Hernández Pérez.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenas tardes. Give me just 1 second. I think that my presentation is already here, but there you go. Okay, thank you so much. So, well, I'm Carla. It's an honor to be here with you. I know the session, actually, the program was supposed to be in Spanish, but if you allow me, I'd be happy to share this session in English because I think that we can get the most out of it since all the speakers have been conducting their sessions in English. So probably I'll try to go like back and forth from English to Spanish. So, well, as Ale has already mentioned, this session is entitled Aprendizaje cooperativo y colaborativo en el aula del inglés, okay? Cooperative and collaborative learning in the English classroom. Well, I don't think I can move through the slide presentation. Do I have control over the slide? Okay, there it is. Okay, so I know that a lot of people is watching through YouTube. So I have the first thing that I have prepared for you is a series of very honest questions. Okay, I'll read the first one, and I would be happy to hear from you, or actually read you, since you are going to be submitting your answers through YouTube. The first question is, did you ever use the words collaborative and cooperative as if they were synonyms? Esta es la primera pregunta para ustedes, compañeros. ¿Alguna vez han usado la palabra cooperación o colaboración como sinónimos? I think that most English teachers or most teachers of different subjects probably at one point of their practice have used these words interchangeably. So let me hear from you. Let's see, we already have some answers. Well, some of you say yes. Okay. I think no. Someone says yes. Okay, remember that here there are no wrong or right answers. This is just like getting to know whether you were familiar with them. I think they are different terms, said someone, and you are completely right. Someone said yes. Okay, there you go. So I can see that we have people here who have used them interchangeably and people who notice that there is actually a difference between these two. Okay, let me share with you the next question. If there is a difference for those that said, yes, I think that they are completely different things, how would it impact in our English classroom? How would this difference impact in our English classroom? Cooperation, yes. Yes, at the beginning. Okay, I think that this answer is related to the previous one, right? Probably when you were, I don't know, like a noble kind of teacher who had recently graduated. I think it's pretty common to not knowing this kind of things when you are a beginner, probably. Okay. So if there is a difference, how would it impact our English classroom? Okay. Okay. Impact will be collaboration is a philosophy of interaction. Very good, interesting, and lifestyle, according to one of our assistants, students learn from each other. Very good. They can assume roles. There you go. Okay, now you're using very important, well, actually keywords that we're gonna see throughout the presentation. Roles, okay, when they help each other, definitely impact in a very positive way. Okay, very good. I think that so far we are not kind of stating the difference like qué corresponde a qué cosa. Por ejemplo, yo veo que algunos mencionan roles, okay, which is interesting. No, they are completely different things, okay. The things you expect from students are different. There you go, all the time. Okay, so now why is stating the differences important? Okay, why is stating differences important? And let me make this bigger because I cannot see it really well. Well, first of all, not knowing the difference between these concepts would prevent us from organizing group work as effectively as possible. Okay, both collaboration and cooperative work are characterized by included interaction, okay? Interaction. Second of all, they pursue different pedagogical aims, okay? And three, choosing which approach is most beneficial to our students. Esto va ligado al punto anterior. Cuando nosotros sabemos, identificamos cuál es el propósito de cada uno de estos métodos instruccionales, nosotros podemos elegir el que más convenga o el que más se adapte a nuestras necesidades de enseñanza o a las necesidades de nuestros alumnos. Okay? There you go. But now let me hear from you. Why else do you think that stating the difference is important? Is there another reason? I included those three, which I think are the most important ones, but probably you think that I'm missing something. Why is stating the difference between cooperative and collaborative work important? Uh-huh. Yes, because of how they participate, because how they engage. Okay, they have to work with their partners, of course, but in very different ways, right? Collaborative work. I don't know if here we have a teacher who is like an advocate of collaborative work, right? So that they can increase their vocabulary, so that you can do your planning accordingly. That is super important. Lesson planning is highly impacted when we set the instructional method, okay, whether it is cooperative or collaborative, right? There you go. So first, let's talk about the differences, okay? We're going to start with cooperative learning and its key terms. And I want you to think of the key differences from three different spheres, okay? The first one being activities, okay? In cooperative learning, what do you think is key in one activity? Vamos a verlo desde tres esferas diferentes, las actividades, el rol del maestro y el rol del estudiante. Vamos a comenzar con las actividades en términos de estructura, ¿ok? ¿Por qué se distinguen estas actividades o la enseñanza cooperativa? Teamwork, very good. What else? They can work in pairs, okay? Well, remember that we're still talking about activities, okay, and the degree of structure that is required from our students, okay, or from teachers as well. Okay, they all have to do something. Group work, attention, it is a positive influence. Okay, we're still talking about the activities. Critical thinking, very good. So there's critical thinking behind activities that are conducted under this cooperative learning approach, according to some of you. Very good. Would you have to work for a purpose? They have to create projects. Awesome. They have to, okay, there you go. Joint thinking in order to improve. Okay. Competitive. Okay, that's a very interesting concept. There you go. Competitive. Okay, collaborative. Do each person is responsible for the learning process. Very good. Teacher is a guide. Awesome. Very good. Now, let's move on to the next sphere. Vamos a continuar con la otra esfera, que sería, ¿cuál es el rol del maestro? What is the teacher's role in cooperative learning? What does the teacher do? What does a teacher do when conducting activities under a cooperative learning approach? Facilitator, awesome. Guidance, very good. Guide, what else? Motivator, very good. I think that that's pretty much what most teachers do, right? We are motivators, cheerleaders, actually. I remember one of my fellow teachers mentioned that the first day of the conference. Monitor and guide. There you go. Facilitator. Okay, I think that we all can agree on that. What about the learner's role? What about the learner's role? What do they do? How do students act? How do students behave under the basis of this cooperative learning approach? Uh-huh. I'm still reading some of the comments referring to the teacher's role. Very good. Learn. Okay, very good. Of course, if we do it, if we conduct our activities in a very efficient way, chances are that they are going to learn lots of things. They all have to participate. Very good. Guided activities. I think that actually belongs to the first sphere, which was activities, but okay, we can include that. Facilitator, project manager. Oh, wow. Wow. We have a full list of adjectives that can describe a teacher's role. Very good. There's teamwork. Okay. Learn and experiment. Awesome. Well, when talking about a learner's role, someone mentioned that they have to be involved or they have to be engaged. Okay. One of the principal guides: participate, investigate, students become involved. Okay. There you go. Let's move on. Take a look at this one. There you go. Okay. So these are the differences that I included for you, okay? Cooperative learning is often contrasted with competitive and individualistic learning, okay? I think some of you did mention the word competitive, and we are not going to learn why, okay? In activities, they are well-defined, structured activities, okay? The teacher's role is in the form of center-teacher approach. What does that mean? That is mainly dominant, okay? Since there are structured activities, that means that the teacher is constantly providing support to students, okay? What about the learner's role? Each student is responsible for their performance and contributions to the group, which is known as individual accountability, okay? Well, aquí voy a cambiar un poquito español porque el primer punto de esta lista de diferencias recuerda a uno de los mitos alrededor del aprendizaje cooperativo que menciona Díaz Barriga, y es que en las escuelas comentan que se fomenta directa o indirectamente la competencia, porque pues nos han dicho, nos han enseñado que vivimos en un mundo donde el pez más grande se come al chico, ¿no? Ahora quiero que lo pensemos desde la perspectiva de la enseñanza del inglés. Seguramente han escuchado o les ha tocado decir que la importancia de la enseñanza del inglés yace en que es una herramienta que va a dotar a los estudiantes para, bueno, la herramienta obviamente siendo el lenguaje, para distinguirse en un mundo altamente competitivo. Entonces, bueno, desde ahí tenemos la noción de la muy marcada de la competencia, ¿ok? Para el punto número 2 y 3, well, there is more dominance of a teacher in learning cooperation, given that the activities, as I was just mentioning you, are structured. Plus, it is the teacher who decides beforehand most of the learner's roles. In other words, he controls most of what is going on in the group activity. No hay demasiado espacio para la autonomía, la independencia por parte de los estudiantes, dado que muchos de los roles se asignan por el maestro, okay? And well, with the learner's role, when I'm talking about individual accountability, I'm making reference to one of the principles of cooperative learning. Para el aprendizaje cooperativo hay una serie de principios, algunos autores manejan 8, algunos otros manejan 4, algunos de ellos coinciden en algunos puntos, pero los que destacan son principalmente esta individual accountability and positive interdependence, okay? Well, let's move on to the following part, which is collaborative learning. Okay, now that we have stated the main points of cooperative learning, remember that we are trying to see this from 3 different points of view, which is what is how the activities are conducted, what the teacher's role is, and what the learner's role is. Okay, this time we're going to start the other way around. Okay, esta vez vamos a comenzar a la inversa. Okay, what can you tell me about the learner's role in collaborative learning? What is characteristic of a student's behavior, of a student's performance in this collaborative learning? Okay, they respect each other. I think, okay, that can happen in both learning approaches, right? What else? They share thoughts. Okay, they bring ideas to the table. There you go. They have, of course, to pay attention. There is a purpose. Awesome. Participation. It is a student center. Oh, wow, very good. Okay, it is a student center. Remember that something that we learned from the previous slide is that the cooperative learning is actually a teacher-centered activity. Okay, so someone says, I don't think I can see the comment again. But okay, collaborative work helps students to understand each other, okay, or to better understand each other. There you go. They are active students. Very good. The role of the learner is way more active, okay? They practice their tolerance, okay? Oh, wow. That's super interesting because I don't think that we had emphasized the importance of the social skills, the social skills that come into play when you use either the cooperative or the collaborative learning approach, okay? What else? Problem solving. They become problem solvers, actually. Peer teaching, interaction. Now, what about the teacher's role? What about the teacher's role? What does the teacher do? What is the teacher figure in the collaborative classroom? Monitor. There you go. Guide. Okay. They work with more empathy. Helper. Guide and facilitator, a coach. I love that word. Coach. Facilitates. A coaching behavior. Okay. Immersion language. Coordinate activities. Okay. Now that you're talking about coordination, let me know what you think. But I think that the figure of a coordinator is more visible in the cooperative approach. Don't you think so? La figura de coordinador de un maestro se ve más representada en el aprendizaje cooperativo. What do you think? Okay, someone mentioned that is passive role. And I'm assuming you're still talking about the teacher in this specific collaborative learning approach. Monitor, feedback. He provides feedback. Oh, well, someone said, I don't speak Spanish. Yeah, it's because I'm trying to go back and forth. I'm sorry about that. the session was meant to be in Spanish so that both English and Spanish speakers can keep up with what we're saying. I'm going back and forth, so sometimes you're gonna hear me use a little bit of Spanish. Um, okay, very good. Now, what about the activities? What in terms of the activities? What are they like? What are the activities like in the collaborative classroom? What are the activities like in the collaborative classroom? I remember you told me that in cooperative learning, there is more critical thinking. But let's see what the rest of you can say. Okay, facilitator. I think we're still talking about the teacher. Okay, so in the collaborative learning classroom, there is interaction. There you go. Flipped class, wonderful. Projects, very good. What else? Role play activities, very good. Role play activities. Pair or group discussions, there you go. There are projects, okay? Role plays. Role plays again. Exchange of ideas, there you go. Exchange of ideas. There are projects as well. Challenge. Okay. According to one of the comments, they are more challenging, and we are going to learn a little bit of where those challenges come from. Okay, problem solving activities. There you go. Let's move on. Let's talk about the differences. Okay, well, the key points of collaborative learning. So, it derives from intellectual roots that consider knowledge as a social construction, which is very interesting. In the constructivist view of education, Dewey, John Dewey, was an important figure because he considered that students do not learn in isolation, in an isolated way, which, if you think about it, is pretty similar to Vygotsky's idea on cognitive development and language learning. Es muy similar a lo que dice Vygotsky en su teoría sociocultural, donde dice que solamente este desarrollo cognitivo y el aprendizaje del lenguaje es el resultado de una interacción social. Okay? Well, in terms of activities, yes, they are indeed more open-ended and flexible. If you remember, the cooperative learning was characterized by having very structured activities, okay? Um, in terms of the teacher's role, it is a form of a student-centered approach where the teacher is a facilitator. The teacher guides and supports the collaborative process, okay? So the role of the teacher is like on a second, está como en un segundo plano. Aquí dejamos que el alumno explore, que el alumno interactúe de una manera más libre y autónoma, okay? For the learner's role, direct interaction among the members of a small group to produce a product, okay? This process involves other social skills, of course, such as negotiating, discussing, and accommodating each other's perspectives, which can be actually very challenging, especially if you're thinking about your own students from elementary schools or secondary schools, which are, I don't know, like from 6 to probably 14 years old. I mean, it's a difficult age for them to develop their social skills. Okay. More importantly, the way of interaction among students is usually negotiated and established by the learners themselves. Como recordarán, en el aprendizaje cooperativo, los roles ya están definidos y son provistos por el instructor, por el docente. Aquí hay una posibilidad de que ellos, mediante el diálogo, mediante la negociación, puedan llegar a un acuerdo y asignar roles a ellos mismos. ¿Ok? There you go. So this is like a comparative chart of of the most relevant or most important information from collaborative learning, and cooperative learning. The first part being degree of structure, okay? There is indeed a high degree of structure in the cooperative learning, and in the collaborative learning, it says low, okay? As for the relationships in cooperative learning, the individual is accountable to the group and vice versa, and it is teacher-centered. In collaborative learning, the relationships, well, in this like peer interactions with students, the learners are engaged with more capable others who provide assistance and guidance. So this is a pretty much a learner-centered approach. Okay. I don't know if this point, the one in relationships, collaborative learning, reminds you a specific concept that is used in English teaching. Esto de participar con pares que estén un poquito más avanzados en cuestiones de dominio lingüístico. Doesn't that remind you of a very important subject, of a very important concept here in language teaching? Doesn't that remind you of a very particular concept that we usually use in language teaching? ¿A alguno le suena familiar esto de la zona de desarrollo próximo? Right? Okay, well, because that is a kind of underlying here. As for okay, algunos estaban mencionando como esto de los tutores, very good, los tutores. En ocasiones nosotros los maestros nos tenemos que apoyar porque sabemos que tenemos salones extremadamente grandes, lo cual nos impide tener un aprendizaje, por así decirlo, más personalizado, pero siempre contamos con la ayuda de estudiantes dentro del mismo salón de clases que apoyen a sus compañeros a realizar ciertas tareas. Okay, there you go. As the prescriptiveness of activities in cooperative learning, it is high. And actually, I think there was a problem with the other word because it should be low, actually. Okay? ¿Por qué? Porque recordemos que las actividades son menos estructuradas, okay, para el aprendizaje colaborativo. And here I decided to include a few key terms. Of course, the ones that you gave me here in the chat books were super useful. Most of you concurred in some of them, but here we have positive interdependence, accountability, teamwork, roles. Most of you mentioned roles at the very beginning of this session, cooperative learning, and cooperative learning structures. As for collaborative learning, we have the zone of proximal development and scaffolding. Let me hear what you know about this, okay? Porque aparentemente son conceptos que nosotros deberíamos de estar aplicando en nuestros salones de clase, pero puede que a veces por una razón o por otra, sea por la planeación de clase, por el mismo desarrollo de la misma, por el número de estudiantes que tenemos, olvidamos aplicar estos conceptos frente a grupo. So what about scaffolding? What about scaffolding? Why is this helpful? Most people talk about this, but no nos caería nada mal recordar qué es scaffolding y la importancia que juega en la enseñanza y aprendizaje. Andamiaje, muy bien. Scaffolding is when we support the learning of the students. There you go. When we support, when we teachers, or when we have someone else support or help them like move forward, okay? Because la ayuda no siempre viene de un maestro, también puede venir de un par, de un compañero de clase, okay? Renivelación, a kind of support to students, okay? Basis for learning. Scaffolding is supporting those who actually need it. Okay, there you go. What is okay, very good. In that way, you can build up, okay? You can build up knowledge, which is very important. Keep adding knowledge to previous learnings, very good. Recuerden que la idea de scaffolding viene justamente de la idea de esta estructura, ¿no? De los andamios. Vamos llevando a nuestros alumnos de un paso a otro, ¿ok? Y eso, por supuesto, debe de significarles un reto, porque permite a un desarrollador definir y crear, ¿ok? Andamiaje por parte de los tutores. Most of students just copy the work without learning. Yes. Okay, that's very challenging. Support in all the stages. There you go. So, quiero que se queden con esta imagen que les acabo de presentar, la imagen del cuadrito, porque you're gonna help me answer the following questions. Let's discuss a little bit, okay? Based on those differences, okay, in terms of activities, in terms of learners' roles, in terms of teachers' roles, okay, in terms of structure, actually, which works best for you, English teachers here in, well, actually, all around Mexico? Which works best for you? ¿Cuál les funciona mejor? Collaborative learning or cooperative learning? Think about your own context, your students. Do they need more assistance? Do you think they need more structured activities or controlled activities? Oh wow, we have a very interesting comment here. Miss, oh, I couldn't say the name, but it was something like we should mix them, right? We should use one, we should use the two of them, right? Collaborative learning, depending on the class. Very good. Collaborative learning, both. Okay, I think both would work for me, but in different groups. Oh wow, very good. So yes, there you go. You're getting closer actually, because you can put activities by the practice. Both. I have this little, oh well, yes. Introducing a topic, I prefer cooperative, but for practice, you should use collaborative. That is very interesting. Okay, using both. Collaborative learning works better, according to some of you. Cooperative learning, it's very interesting. It's very interesting because I think that most of you share kind of backgrounds, like talking about educación básica, no? Ahora, let's talk about the challenges. What challenges would my students and I face? Hayan elegido el aprendizaje cooperativo o hayan elegido el aprendizaje colaborativo, ¿a qué desafíos se enfrentarán si usan uno u otro? What challenges would you and your students face? Ok, algunos hablan de los tutores, que es algo bastante funcional. Ok, depends on every single school. Collaborative. Okay, we're still sharing answers about the previous one. There you go. Now help me talk about the challenges. What challenges might you be facing? Language. Okay. Language is, I think, the the first thing that comes to our mind when thinking about obstacles or challenges, those things that hinder our practice. Language is the first one. But attention from them, since the groups are really big. Yes, I know. The time is key. Time is like or can be our best ally or our worst enemy. Language level, emotion. Wow, that is a very interesting concept. There you go. Kids are distracted. Students' personalities, different levels of English of the students. También depende del entorno. Muy bien. The socio-cultural background of the students also matters, right? The time is very important. Ay, la apatía. Bueno, sí, ya. Esto tiene que ver con lo emocional, ¿no? Unequal skills levels, por supuesto, pero recuerden que los niveles de competencia lingüística en este sentido, pues se tratan de compensar cuando nosotros tomamos estrategias agrupándolos con compañeros que quizá van un poquito más adelantados, ¿no? Find a correct balance between cooperative and collaborative work. Nice. The structure, motivation and empathy. Social environment, desmotivación, yes. Lack of commitment, context. Well, todas estas de verdad que son razones que quizá, pocas veces se toman en cuenta cuando hablamos de: "Oh, me gustaría hacer una actividad en grupo". like, have you ever wondered if your students are actually willing to to do something like that? Because it is a different level of cognitive demands, actually, and emotional demands, okay, for that matter. Well, pero como muchos de ustedes dijeron, why choose one when you can have both of them, the best of both worlds? Okay, here if you notice, there is like this picture where there is like a person trying to decide which path to take. Si quisieran tomar el camino the foster social skills and highly structured tasks like more controlled activities, which path would you be taking? ¿De qué camino estaríamos hablando? Si queremos promover las habilidades sociales, si queremos enfocarnos en actividades como un poco más controladas, ¿de qué approach estaríamos hablando? Collaborative or cooperative? Okay. Oh, there you go. Very good. Cooperative. Well, let's see if that's a correct answer. Okay. Cooperative. What else? Cooperative, very good, according to you. Now, what if the focus of your class was more on the learning outcome, okay? And you want to have your students participate autonomously. ¿De qué enfoque estaríamos hablando? Would that be cooperative or collaborative? Si me enfoco más en el producto o en el resultado y yo quiero que mis estudiantes se desenvuelvan con un poco más de autonomía, independencia, ¿de qué camino estaríamos hablando? Okay, there you go. Some of you are saying collaborative as well. Let's see if your answer was correct. There you go. Okay. So if you are talking about fostering social, mainly your students' social skills, that would be cooperative learning. Remember that those are more structured, controlled activities. But if you are trying to focus on the product, okay? Porque acuérdense que en lo colaborativo se reconoce que los estudiantes vienen con diferentes habilidades, ¿ok? Entonces lo que nos importa es que ellos vayan construyendo el conocimiento juntos, ¿ok? No se asume que uno es experto en tal cosa, no se asume que otro es experto o domina esto, ¿ok? Se espera que vayan construyendo ese conocimiento durante el desarrollo de la actividad, ¿ok? There you go. Uh-huh. Now, I have more questions for you. And this is what to expect. Okay. Arranging our students in groups does not always mean they will work cooperatively or collaboratively. Okay. An author actually mentions that collaboration does not come naturally to our students, especially in cultures like our culture that encourage individual responsibility. Un autor menciona que es entendible que la cooperación, colaboración, ¿ok? No se les dé a nuestros estudiantes de forma natural porque vivimos en una sociedad que nos dice o que motiva el trabajo individual, ¿ok? No. Plus, if we take into account the fact that evaluation, okay, evaluation is mainly, if not exclusively, based on their individual performance and effort, when we ask our learners to work in groups, we are basically contradicting what a structure that they have always been used to. Imagínense lo contradictorio que es para un alumno saber que le va a evaluar sobre un esquema individual cuando nosotros le pedimos trabaja en grupo, like they are like, why should I even bother? Okay, why? I mean, like, is my effort like really going to matter anyways? If you are going to evaluate me under the basis of, I don't know, tests or activities or whatever, okay? Entonces, como nosotros ya tenemos tan marcado ese esquema de evaluación individual, es entendible que los estudiantes no se vean dedicándole el mismo esfuerzo a una tarea grupal. Okay? Now, cooperation and collaboration place more interpersonal, intrapersonal, and cognitive demands. Some of you were talking about emotions. some of you were talking about backgrounds. Why are those two aspects important? Algunos de ustedes mencionaron emociones, algunos de ustedes mencionaron el contexto, sea social, económico. Why are those aspects important when we are trying to include a group activity in our classroom? ¿Por qué deberíamos considerar esos aspectos cuando queremos incluir actividades grupales en nuestro salón de clases? Both are very interesting. We can use them in different situations. I completely agree with that. Why is emotions in students are not about studying? Okay, very good. Motivate them. Okay, we always have to find a way to motivate them. For equity, it affects the interaction, of course. There you go. Collaborative and comparative. Oh, cooperative learning. Okay. Okay. Because it affects the work. Okay. Alguien por ahí mencionó, let me scroll down. It affects the interaction, of course. Interaction is key in any of them. Okay. Emotion affects motivation. There you go. And if there's no motivation, okay, intrinsic motivation, um, they are more likely to give their 100% or to fully commit to the task, right? There you go. Now, I have another question for you. What cooperative, careful here, what cooperative activities do you use in your language classroom? What cooperative activities do you use in your language classroom? Okay, there you go. Most of you are talking about motivation. It's good to see. It's so good to see teachers who actually care about the emotional aspect of teaching, right? Rallies, there you go. Very good. Projects. Okay. Well, yo creo que el proyecto es como el fin último, ¿no? De toda una serie de actividades que se van dando a lo largo del curso. Okay. Role plays, songs. Okay. Now, I would I would like to know how you use songs as a cooperative activity, because I don't know about you, but most teachers use song as an individual activity. Like have this piece of paper, fill in the blanks, or arrange the parts of the song in the correct order. So I would like to know how you use songs as a cooperative activity. That would be very interesting. Role play, presentations, very good. Ahora, la presentación es totalmente una actividad cooperativa. ¿Por qué? Porque a ti te toca estudiar esto, ¿no? A menos de que lo manejemos de una forma diferente y les pidamos a todos nuestros alumnos que se sepan absolutamente las partes de la presentación, para que si a tal persona le toca contribuir con cierta parte de forma aleatoria, esté preparada para hacerlo bien. Okay? Acting out, quizzes, role plays, projects, presentations, speeches. Ah, wow. Learning stations. I like that one. Very good. Lottery. There you go. Debates and plays. There you go. Well, the children's emotions are very important. There you go. Collaborative activities. Here, I wanna know if you're familiar with any of them. Okay, I just listed a few, starting with vocabulary brainstorm. How would you conduct a vocabulary brainstorm activities with your students? What is it useful for? Ah, broken telephone. What we know in Spanish as teléfono descompuesto, right? Would that be it? Jeopardy, very good. I think that it would also be like a cooperative activity. Am I right? Okay. Vocabulary brainstorm seems like a very simple, straightforward kind of activity, but you can always innovate, right? Here, the language objective would be to help your student learn new words, whether it is about food, whether it is about clothes, colors, whatever, okay? Y bueno, asegurándonos de que los estudiantes menos avanzados en cuestiones del inglés, pues tratar de agruparlos con aquellos que tengan un nivel un poco más elevado, ¿ok? Aquí lo que se sugiere es que ellos trabajen en una lista, ¿ok? In the vocabulary brainstorm activity, I don't know if you do this, but at least that's something that I used to do. I would have the marker and I would ask my students to raise their hands and start naming words. Let's say that the topic was colors. Okay, so who would like to share a color? And someone would raise a hand, and the teacher would be taking notes. If you want to make this like a more collaborative activity, you can have your students create a list of words, and probably I don't know, they can take turns. Each of them can take turns and name a different word. Aquí los estudiantes en una lista en su cuaderno pueden tomar turnos, cada uno puede ir diciendo una palabra, y porque a veces llega a suceder que hay una persona que tiene poco vocabulario, lo podemos asignar para que él vaya tomando las notas de la, de los demás compañeros. Okay? But if because I cannot see the other name here. Okay, preparing a structured survey. Surveys are pretty useful actually. How would you conduct that activity? ¿Cómo creen que funciona esta actividad? A structured survey, which is kind of contradictory now that we are talking about collaborative activities, I know. But how would you conduct that activity? Preparing a structured survey. Ujú. Bueno, yo veo que muchos siguen compartiendo actividades colaborativas, which is pretty good. Y mientras alguien me ayuda a responder la pregunta que acabo de lanzar, I'm gonna read some of them. Okay? Charades, tic-tac-toe, hangman, which is actually very fun. Chain of words, there you go. Bingo, I love that. What else? Role game, spelling, and listen. Okay? Charades, the game Basta. Find someone who. Mentimeter. Oh, well, that's the app. That's a very useful app when you want to have your students carry out activities like this. Okay. Well, in this activity, the steps are pretty simple. First of all, the teacher or the students prepare different sets of survey questions beforehand. Okay, like probably read them down in their notebooks. Okay, like where did you used to live? What do you prefer to drink with your meals? Where are you going after school? Por supuesto que estas preguntas ustedes las pueden adaptar al nivel de sus estudiantes. Si hablamos de un grupo más básico, nivel de inglés más elemental, you can think of questions like, what's your favorite color? What's your name? Or what's your pet's name? Or where do you live? Okay. The step two would be to have your students in groups, and each group will use a set of questions to interview members of their group. Okay, if possible, and to increase the variety of responses, each group can ask different survey questions. Okay. Now, the next activity I think is one of my favorite ones. La siguiente actividad creo que es una de mis favoritas. Drawing together. Drawing together. Have you ever heard of this activity? Drawing together. I'm pretty sure you're gonna love that, especially those that probably work in elementary school or kindergarten, because everything that involves colors and drawing, well, the language objective includes the vocabulary of colors and adjectives, including comparatives and superlatives. Muchos dicen, no, no lo he escuchado, no, no lo he escuchado. Bueno, pues quizá quieran tomar nota porque estoy segura de que les va a fascinar. Okay. For this activity, the only thing you're gonna need is your students are going to need a piece of paper and colors. Each student will choose a different color and work alone. The first part of the class is alone, okay? For 5 minutes to draw a picture of his or her choice. Let's say a flower or an animal or an object, okay? The teacher then will provide a larger piece of paper, okay, for all students to draw their pictures. Por ejemplo, si yo tengo un equipo de 5, cada uno de esos 5 ya tiene su dibujo en su cuaderno, pero en la hoja, no sé, me estoy imaginando una hoja de papel bond grande, ¿ok? Ahí vamos a dejar que cada uno dibuje la figura que ya tenía, ¿ok? After that, once all the drawings are there, they are going to analyze the final product and take in turns by naming the different colors. Aquí lo interesante es que no podemos, no solamente vamos a hablar de los colores, sino que también vamos a hablar de los tamaños, okay? For example, you can say your students might share statements like, okay, so Carlita's drawing is bigger, okay? Or Laura's drawing is green, okay? Or I think the most colorful drawing is Joshua's, for example. You see? So you can have your students interact by doing a very friendly activity. It doesn't always have to be that frightening for your students, okay, to interact. O sea, no siempre tiene que ser una experiencia aterradora el que sus alumnos interactúen. Okay? I love it. I always like drawings. I know. And it's something that we stop doing as the years go by, because, well, it just gets more difficult, right? Then the activity should say drawing and coloring together. Yes, well, drawing and coloring together. There you go. Drawing together is awesome. Yeah. Okay. Lovely to hear from you. And all the ingredients matter. This is actually a super nice activity for your students, okay? Está el nivel es un poquito más elevado, ¿ok? Aquí lo que van a necesitar, y esto es buenísimo cuando estamos hablando de comida, que ya sabemos que la comida sirve para tocar muchos temas, like countable, uncountable nouns, and things like those. Well, here you can have, yo sé que quizá llevar los ingredientes a la clase sea un poco difícil, entonces quizá les guste más llevar una imagen, ¿ok? En grupos, cada estudiante va a seleccionar un ingrediente o un utensilio de comida, ¿ok? And, of course, primero van a hacer el trabajo de forma a nivel individual, pensando, okay, what is this ingredient for? ¿Okay? ¿Para qué es este ingrediente? O si les tocó un utensilio, ¿para qué es este utensilio? ¿De qué me va a ayudar? ¿Ok? Una vez que hayan hecho esa reflexión de forma individual, sus estudiantes van a dejar que discutan un poco entre ellos y sus compañeros, van a crear una receta, okay, they are going to create a recipe with those ingredients, and after that, the teacher is going to walk all over the classroom, el maestro se va a ir paseando por el salón de clases y va a remover uno de esos ingredientes, okay? When you do that, you can ask your classmates how your students, sorry, how the flavor of that recipe or of that dish would change. Le van a preguntar a sus estudiantes, ahora que removí este ingrediente, ¿qué cambia? Okay, and they have to explain. I know it is sounds a little bit more elaborated than the previous activity, but believe me, with the appropriate guidance and vocabulary, of course. Okay, if you provide those elements to your students, I'm pretty sure that it's
Yeah.
going. Okay?
Wow, what wonderful activities, Miss Carla. I'm sure all of the teachers are very pleased and they're grateful for you sharing all of these activities.
Thank you so much.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, but we truly appreciate very, very much your talk. It was a wonderful talk. Thank you very, very much,
No,
Miss
thank you
Carla.
so much. It was a pleasure to have you here. And well, thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Thanks to all of the participants today. Your commitment and participations have been just wonderful. Don't forget to let us know where you are connecting from. Well, we're ready for a short break, and let's meet at 5:10 to continue with our last session. Abro micro. Bienvenidos. Ahora permítanme presentar a nuestra siguiente y última ponente de la Jornada Nacional, maestra Mariana Zúñiga García, licenciada en Psicología y maestra en Psicología en el área de Evaluación Educativa por la Facultad de Psicología de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. Tiene la especialidad en Política y Gestión de la Evaluación Educativa por la Facultad Latinoamericana de Ciencias Sociales. Bienvenida, maestra.
Muy buenas tardes a todas y a todos y muchas gracias por la invitación. De verdad es un gusto poder estar aquí con ustedes y poder compartir algunas reflexiones acerca de la evaluación en el marco del nuevo plan de estudios y que ustedes verán que en realidad tal vez no hay nada nuevo bajo el sol, pero sí hay algunos énfasis que son importantes, hay algunos elementos que quizá nosotros ya habíamos considerado, pero que no eran oficiales, no eran institucionales, y actualmente lo son. En algunas pláticas que tuvimos con algunos maestros nos decían, es que nos reconocemos mucho en la nueva perspectiva de la evaluación, pero antes estábamos al margen y ahora ya es algo que se está considerando. Entonces, eso es algo importante. Y bueno, yo les voy a hablar de algunas reflexiones acerca de la evaluación. Y para empezar, creo que a veces nos centramos en los aspectos más técnicos de la evaluación o nos centramos en los aspectos que tienen que ver más con los instrumentos propiamente dichos, pero creo que hay que regresar hacia cuáles son las actitudes, cuáles son las emociones que sentimos cuando vamos a ser evaluados, ¿no? No solo nosotros, sino también las estudiantes, las y los estudiantes. ¿Qué sentimos? ¿Qué reacciones tenemos cuando vamos a ser evaluados? Bueno, entre las distintas reacciones que podemos tener, pues en realidad a nadie le gusta sentirse bajo la lupa, ¿no? Sentirse bajo la lupa, sentirse observado, sentirse que en cualquier momento se puede equivocar. Y menos cuando quizá quien nos va a evaluar no nos conoce, ¿no? Y decimos, es que me tocó la evaluación a lo mejor de alguien que nunca he visto y tuve un mal día y el tráfico estuvo terrible y además se me cayó el licuado en el piso y entonces pasaron muchas cosas. Entonces, la evaluación tiene ciertos elementos que nos dan ese estrés acumulado, ¿no? Y sobre todo, cuando no tenemos claro cuáles son los criterios que se están siguiendo, cuando no sabemos qué va a venir en el examen, ¿no? Como se dice. Y también cuando esa evaluación, que quizá es de algo que yo no sé exactamente cuáles son los criterios que se están considerando, tampoco conozco a la persona que me va a evaluar y además va a tener una consecuencia sobre mi trabajo, sobre mi actuar, entonces todavía es mayor el estrés. Y también cuando se utiliza como un instrumento de poder. Entonces, es algo que es una reflexión acerca de quizá las experiencias que hemos tenido acerca de la evaluación en distintos ámbitos. Es algo de lo cual, pues, es como algo en lo cual a veces hemos tenido que remar contracorriente. Y bueno, ¿cuál es la reflexión con la que se inicia en el nuevo plan de estudios acerca de la evaluación? Bueno, pues que en el pasado se ha dado prioridad a una evaluación que se basa principalmente en una cuantificación del conocimiento, ¿no? ¿Qué tanto sabes a partir de esta serie de tablas donde dice que esto es lo que tienes que aprender? Y esto ha generado que haya dos consecuencias. Por un lado, una fragmentación del conocimiento, porque entonces todos te tienen que poner en cajoncitos, de sí me lo sé. Incluso recuerdo mucho a una maestra que nos decía, oigan, esos cajones de conocimiento que tienen, pues sí pueden interactuar entre sí, ¿eh? O sea, háganlos interactuar, o sea, no está separado el conocimiento. Sin embargo, nos han dado el mensaje de que está separado el conocimiento. Y también nos ha dado el mensaje de que hay una supuesta equivalencia entre la calificación y la evaluación, ¿no? ¿Cuánto tuviste? 10, entonces estás muy bien. ¿Cuánto tuviste? 8, pues más o menos. De 7 para abajo, pues no, la verdad es que sí son focos rojos, ¿no? Y es impresionante cómo a veces desde el nivel de preescolar ya se tiene como esta afición a la palomita, al 10, y es algo que desafortunadamente vamos cargando a lo largo de nuestra vida y sin saber a veces eso qué significa. Y es algo que también se ha encontrado como en la literatura, tanto a nivel nacional como internacional, que muchas veces esta devolución, esta calificación, este comentario que nos dan acerca del resultado de nuestra evaluación, pues no significa nada para nosotros, ¿no? No significa nada para los estudiantes, porque no les da como un rumbo hacia dónde ir. Y pues es algo que también se trata en esta perspectiva de la nueva escuela mexicana. Ahora, ¿cuáles han sido las consecuencias de esta equiparación entre la evaluación y la calificación? Pues una de ellas es que el resultado de la evaluación ha recaído exclusivamente en las y los estudiantes, ¿no? ¿Cuántas veces ha habido como clasificaciones dentro de un grupo de los que saben, los que no saben, los que son aplicados, los que no son aplicados, a los que se les facilita y a los que no, como si fuera algo fijo y una característica individual que nunca se puede mover y que así es y así será siempre? Entonces, esto es muy triste porque muy tempranamente estigmatizamos a los estudiantes sobre lo que pueden y no pueden hacer. Y también hay diversos estudios que nos indican que en función de nuestras expectativas es finalmente cuáles son los resultados que tienen los estudiantes. Entonces es algo que también tenemos que reflexionar. Entonces, bueno, hay que considerar que justo el número que se obtiene, el número 10, el número 9, finalmente no refleja todo el proceso complejo que sucede en los estudiantes. No refleja cuál fue el punto inicial y cuánto le costó llegar al punto en el cual estamos valorándolo, y tampoco refleja cómo interactuó ese conocimiento pues con la realidad de los estudiantes en distintos niveles, ¿no? Tanto en aula, en escuela, familia, comunidad. En realidad, es importante poder recuperar estos elementos que forman parte de la evaluación y que se han separado del proceso formativo. Entonces, bueno, a partir de estos antecedentes, se ha estigmatizado a veces a los estudiantes acerca de la evaluación y se ha hecho esta equiparación entre evaluación y medición, evaluación y calificación. ¿Qué es lo que nos dice el nuevo plan de estudios? Bueno, que hay que resignificar y recuperar el sentido pedagógico de la evaluación, que la evaluación es parte del proceso formativo. Finalmente es un proceso que tiene que ver con nuestros procesos mentales, y entonces nuestros procesos mentales tienen que ver con una planeación, una implementación y un proceso de valoración. Entonces, como parte de un proceso, el aprendizaje también tiene estas fases, ¿no? Y constantemente estamos en una evaluación, aunque quizá no le llamemos evaluación. También los niños desde muy pequeños pueden saber, ya estoy volteando el número, estoy volteando la letra, o no se dice así, ¿no? Quizá una palabra no se dice así cuando estoy estudiando los animales, cuando estoy estudiando las frutas, cuando estoy estudiando cómo pedir ayuda. Y entonces es importante reconocer que todos esos elementos que me permiten monitorearme, eso también es evaluación. Y entonces la evaluación está presente en la relación pedagógica que existe entre los profesores y los estudiantes. El estudiante se autoevalúa, pero también ve cómo están participando sus compañeros, y también evalúa al propio profesor. ¿Cuál es la interacción que tiene conmigo? ¿Me pone atención? ¿Se está fijando en cómo aprendo? ¿Me está enseñando? Y también, obviamente, los docentes están centrados en cómo están aprendiendo los estudiantes. Entonces hay una complejidad muy importante y muy interesante en las interacciones que se dan en el aula y todos los procesos de valoración que van ocurriendo. Por eso es muy importante que en estos procesos de interacción la evaluación sirva como un pretexto de fomentar el diálogo y que se desencadenen procesos de reflexión, porque al final eso es lo que esperamos como docentes, que las cosas que los estudiantes al inicio pueden realizar con apoyo, a lo largo del periodo las puedan realizar de manera independiente. Y entonces es cuando ya sabemos que ese aprendizaje pues está apropiado, resignificado. Y en este sentido también, bueno, sabemos que todos los conocimientos pues los resignificamos, los interpretamos, los construimos, los acomodamos en nuestros esquemas y entonces por eso es muy importante no considerar los conocimientos y saberes como en abstracto, sino más bien cómo estos conviven y coexisten en la realidad de los estudiantes, en la realidad del aula, de la escuela y de la comunidad. Bueno, en este marco, la nueva escuela mexicana nos indica que hay que considerar dos fases principales de la evaluación, que son la evaluación formativa y la evaluación para la acreditación. Entonces, nos vamos a centrar principalmente en la evaluación formativa. La evaluación formativa es el seguimiento que realizan los docentes del proceso de aprendizaje. Y este seguimiento es, como les comentaba, se realiza en diferentes contextos y experiencias de vida cotidiana. No tiene que ser el momento, en la clase del 19 de octubre, en el cual realizo una valoración. Realizo una valoración desde que veo cómo llegan los niños a la escuela, si llegan acompañados, si llevaron la tarea, si están activos, si participan, si conviven con otros niños. Entonces, en realidad, es una sensibilidad que se tiene y que se va realizando de manera cotidiana, y que esta sensibilidad nos ayuda a lo que se denomina construir puentes, ¿no? Construir puentes basados en la confianza. Porque bueno, también un principio central de la evaluación es que podamos tener confianza en las personas que están participando en el ejercicio de evaluación. A veces podemos decir, es que tal vez el estudiante, la estudiante no habla nada, no sabe inglés, pero no es que no sepa inglés, es que tal vez no tiene la confianza, tal vez no le hemos dado la confianza para sentirse tranquila y poder hablar y poder demostrar lo que sabe. Entonces, este aspecto también es muy importante. Y otro elemento del que nos habla el nuevo plan de estudios es aprender del error, ¿no? Finalmente, cuando vamos aprendiendo algo, hay cuestiones en las que nos podemos ir muy rápido, hay otras cuestiones en las que se nos dificulta, pero justo es muy importante reconocer dónde está el error, porque así podemos saber, es un error de pronunciación, o no, es un error de vocabulario, o es un error de que quizá el estudiante no tiene ese referente en español y entonces por eso no lo puede conectar. Y entonces, en la medida en la que sabemos a qué se debe el error, podemos apoyar de mejor manera para redefinir el rumbo. Otro elemento del cual se habla en el nuevo plan de estudios es que le da una importancia a elementos que no se habían considerado en los planes anteriores. Por ejemplo, la observación, la importancia de la observación, que no necesitamos tener un instrumento formal para poder realizar una observación y sin embargo es una herramienta crucial para poder realizar una evaluación formativa. Entonces, es crucial la observación, la reflexión y también la retroalimentación de estas situaciones de enseñanza y aprendizaje. Nuevamente, esta retroalimentación tendrá sus momentos en los cuales se formalice, o sea, tal vez a finales de noviembre va a haber una sesión de retroalimentación, pero también es algo que ocurre de manera continua. Y es muy importante no sobreformalizarla, ¿no? Sino que cuando ocurra, ese es el momento en el cual podemos dar una buena retroalimentación. En el nuevo plan también se señala que puede ser útil llevar registros que acompañen la observación, ¿no? No tienen que ser registros exhaustivos, pero sí incluso palabras clave, ¿no? De tal estudiante va así, ¿no? Se le dificultó esto. Esta semana logró algo que no había logrado antes. Y también es muy importante reconocer que la evaluación no solo tiene que ser del maestro hacia los alumnos, sino poder incorporar dentro del aula tanto ejercicios de coevaluación como de autoevaluación. A veces tenemos la idea de que si dejamos que los estudiantes se autoevalúen, se van a poner 10. Pero en muchos ejercicios que se han hecho, se ha encontrado también que desde muy chicos, los estudiantes pueden hacer un ejercicio de autoevaluación muy completo e incluso ser más exigentes de lo que los propios docentes podrían ser. Lo que es importante es poder guiarlos hacia qué aspectos es importante que observen de sí mismos. Y lo mismo con la coevaluación. A veces podemos decir, bueno, es que si evalúan a sus amigos se van a valorar muy bien, y si evalúan a con quienes no se llevan tanto, pues no los van a valorar bien. Pero en realidad también es una tarea que los estudiantes asumen con mucho compromiso. Y también contribuye a que se sientan importantes, sientan que su valoración está siendo importante y tengan también otro nivel de compromiso para la clase y para el aula. En el nuevo plan no se estigmatizan las valoraciones escritas, ¿no? Como los tradicionales cuestionarios, exámenes. Se considera que también pueden ser parte del conjunto de evidencias que tenemos acerca del aprendizaje, solo que no tienen que ser los únicos, porque en ocasiones se ha abusado, ¿no?, de estos registros escritos. Y también se señala en el nuevo plan que es importante tomar nota de cuáles son las dificultades que se enfrentan y los compromisos para seguir aprendiendo, ¿no? En la medida en la que nos evaluamos, pero también asumimos compromisos, pues podemos avanzar con mayor detalle. Y otro elemento que se señala es que se permite que la valoración, como les decía, es un proceso continuo, es un proceso que a lo mejor no tiene una fecha determinada, y tampoco a veces sabemos dónde termina la evaluación y dónde empieza el aprendizaje. Entonces, algunos autores como Escalo nos dicen que la valoración tiene que fluir como parte de la actividad escolar. Es algo que no tenemos que tratar de formalizarla porque está ahí siendo parte de. Ahora, respecto a algunos instrumentos que se sugieren en el nuevo plan de estudios para poder dar cuenta del aprendizaje, están pues algunos que seguramente ustedes conocen muy bien, como los grupos de discusión. Podemos hacer grupos de discusión entre los estudiantes con preguntas guía, que podamos hacer diarios de clase, en los cuales pueden ser diarios del propio estudiante o también del maestro, las famosas rúbricas, y que estas rúbricas puedan incorporar ejercicios de autoevaluación, y bueno, claro, que estén pues realizadas en un nivel que sea pues muy accesible y en el lenguaje de los estudiantes. También la elaboración de preguntas que pueden ser orales o que pueden ser escritas, y los debates, que son también una fuente muy importante para poder observar distintos procesos de aprendizaje de los estudiantes y poder emitir una valoración a partir de ello. Aquí un aspecto importante que nos señala la literatura es que a veces se dice, estos instrumentos, este conjunto de instrumentos, por ejemplo, un examen, sirve para una evaluación sumativa o para una evaluación de acreditación. Y este otro conjunto de instrumentos son los que nos ayudan a una evaluación formativa. Pero en realidad lo que hace una evaluación formativa o no es el instrumento que se utilice, sino más bien cómo se usa esa información. ¿Cuál es el uso que le damos a la información que obtenemos? Si ese uso se centra en la retroalimentación hacia los estudiantes, entonces sí podemos decir que hay un uso formativo. Y hay muchos instrumentos que nos pueden ayudar a dar esta retroalimentación. Entonces, no nos casemos con la idea de, es que la rúbrica es formativa y el examen es sumativo, porque en realidad depende mucho de cómo se utilice. Y a veces también se comete el error de decir, no sé, a mí me salen muy bien tales instrumentos, y entonces en función de eso voy a evaluar, cuando la lógica tiene que ser, ¿cuál es el propósito de mi evaluación? ¿Qué es lo que quiero observar en mis estudiantes? Y entonces a partir de ello genero un instrumento de evaluación o selecciono un instrumento de evaluación, y además considerando pues ciertas limitaciones que siempre tendremos, pues de tiempo, de número de estudiantes, de recursos empleados. Actualmente, pues con todas las tecnologías, con todo el desarrollo de redes sociales, de internet, tenemos muchas más formas en las cuales los estudiantes pueden evidenciar su aprendizaje, ¿no? Les podemos pedir que hagan un podcast, que hagan un blog, que hagan entradas de Twitter, que hagan un TikTok, y siempre y cuando existan criterios claros para desarrollar estas actividades, pues podemos plantearlas como parte de la valoración que realizamos, y para ellos también va a tener un sentido. Porque muchas veces la evaluación también se dice que se ha planteado para nada y para nadie. O sea, finalmente hago un examen, pero eso pues no lo va a ver mi maestro y nada más va a cotejar opciones de respuesta, ¿no? O va a cotejar respuestas con respuestas modelo. Y cuando hacemos una evaluación que tiene un propósito, que es para alguien y que tiene un destinatario y que quizá tiene un escenario donde se va a mostrar, entonces también la forma en la que los estudiantes lo abordan es muy diferente, ¿no? Y con mucho más sentido. Entonces, bueno, eso tiene que ver con otros procesos de evaluación auténtica que no se señalan explícitamente en el nuevo plan de estudios, pero que hay una comunalidad importante con ello. Ahora, ¿cuál es la triste realidad? Que no solo tenemos que hacer una evaluación formativa, sino que también tenemos que realizar un proceso de acreditación, que es una función de la evaluación. Entonces, respecto a este punto, Pedro Ravela, que es un investigador uruguayo muy importante que seguramente ustedes conocen, nos dice que como docentes tenemos que realizar dos funciones que son complementarias pero que a veces se contraponen, que son la función del entrenador y la función del juez. Entonces, a veces da el ejemplo del patinaje artístico y nos dice, a veces tenemos que hacer la labor de entrenador y decir, mira, así está tu postura, tus giros, el seguimiento con la música, vas muy bien, aquí puedes mejorar este elemento, hazlo otra vez, te apoyo, eres muy bueno, pero a veces tenemos que hacer la función de juez, ¿no? Y en una sola persona. Entonces, bueno, en este momento ya no te puedo apoyar, vas tú solo, pero voy a darte todos los elementos para que puedas demostrar lo que sabes. Entonces, en el nuevo plan de estudios, no nos olvidamos de esta función de acreditación. De hecho, hace un par de semanas, me parece, salió el nuevo acuerdo de evaluación. Y bueno, no nos hemos separado del todo de la calificación, pero sí es importante que haya un énfasis en que la calificación es algo necesario, no trascendental, sí necesario para el otorgamiento de boletas, certificados, pero que eso se basa en un juicio, no se basa en una asignación numérica, sino que es un juicio profesional que realizan las maestras y maestros de todo el proceso de enseñanza y de aprendizaje. Y que esta calificación no necesariamente tiene que tener una mega sábana de actividades, asistencia, puntualidad, etcétera, sino que más que una suma de actividades, de asistencias, de criterios, tiene que ser una valoración mucho más cualitativa, mucho más profunda de cómo llegó el estudiante, qué logró, cuáles son las evidencias de su aprendizaje, y que a partir de esta valoración, de esta sensibilidad y de este juicio profesional, se otorguen las calificaciones. Aquí también se habla de que hay un proceso de interpretación, o sea, no hay un traslado, en la actividad sacaste 8, esto se traduce en este aprendizaje, no, aquí hay un proceso de interpretación, y que en este proceso de interpretación también es muy importante considerar la perspectiva de los propios estudiantes acerca de sí mismos y acerca de sus compañeros. Y también en esta labor de acreditación se recomienda en el nuevo plan que se consideren distintas evidencias que se pueden agrupar en un portafolio, ¿no? Tanto tareas, trabajos, exámenes, exposiciones orales, ejercicios, y que al final este ejercicio como de armar un portafolio sea una tarea que sea significativa para los estudiantes, y que entonces, así como la valoración fluye dentro del aula, que la acreditación también pueda fluir en la medida de lo posible a partir de lo que ya se tiene, de lo que ya se fue construyendo. Aquí yo tengo una experiencia en la cual un tiempo hice observaciones en una residencia médica que estaba ubicada en una clínica, ¿no? Entonces, finalmente los estudiantes, los residentes, trabajaban todo el semestre en rayos X, análisis, exploración física, cuidados de maternidad, el área de prevención de la salud, nutrición, y entonces estaban todo el tiempo los estudiantes de un lado a otro en diferentes módulos aprendiendo muchísimo, pero cuando llegaba el fin de semestre y por parte de la facultad se decía, a ver, ya llegó el momento de las calificaciones, entonces la encargada del área educativa decía, ay, hay que llenar el cuaderno de las mentiras, ¿no? ¿Por qué el cuaderno de las mentiras? Bueno, pues porque ese cuaderno nos pide cosas que en realidad no ven los estudiantes, porque aquí se ve lo que llega, ¿no? Se ve lo que llega y organizamos a los estudiantes, pues en los distintos módulos y conforman una clínica, pero no llevamos un registro de día 1, tienes que ver esto, día 2, tienes que ver esto. Y entonces le llamaban el cuaderno de las mentiras, porque pues tenían que ponerse creativos para ver qué le ponían a cada estudiante, ¿no? Entonces, ¿por qué tener que ajustar el aprendizaje a los instrumentos? ¿Y por qué no poder ajustarlos? ¿Por qué no proceder al revés, no? O sea, sabiendo que hay una complejidad en la propia situación de aprendizaje, ¿por qué no hacemos que los instrumentos traten de responder a esa complejidad? Que los criterios sean de una profundidad que permita observar esta complejidad, incluso como esta probabilidad de que ocurran o no los eventos, porque no es algo que podamos controlar, ¿no? ¿Qué padecimientos van a llegar el día de hoy? Y creo que en ese sentido también los estudiantes cuentan con un conjunto de experiencias, de contextos que a veces no sabemos cómo vienen, pero hay que aprovecharlos y hay que aprovecharlos de mejor manera para que puedan aprender en conjunto. Bueno, ahora continuando con el mismo punto, hay creo que ya comenté lo de las distintas evidencias, lo de que hay un juicio profesional de los docentes, que hay distintos instrumentos que se pueden utilizar. Y otro punto tiene que ver con algunas inquietudes que hemos escuchado de las y los docentes a partir de la publicación del nuevo plan de estudios, ¿no? Un elemento es lo que les comentaba, de doble rol, ¿no? Este doble rol de entrenador y juez, y cuándo soy entrenador y cuándo soy juez. Otra inquietud tiene que ver con que cuando hablamos de la evaluación formativa, todos, en realidad siempre hay como un impulso a la evaluación formativa. Yo quiero evaluar de manera formativa, quiero apoyar a los estudiantes, pero cuando nos dicen, bueno, pero también tienes que calificar, pero también tienes que llenar esta lista y este formato, pues en realidad se va uno desmotivando respecto a qué le voy a dar más peso, ¿no? Le voy a dar más peso a una evaluación formativa que quizá no me va a redituar en lo que tengo que entregar, o le voy a dar más peso a algo que sí tengo que entregar, aunque no coincida tanto con mi perspectiva, ¿no? Entonces, finalmente tenemos que integrar un balance y ir construyendo en el camino algo que finalmente sí me sirva para una acreditación. Aquí también creo que tenemos que cambiar creencias, no solo, bueno, eso se dice mucho también y es cierto, no solo cambiando el currículo, pues se cambian las creencias, ¿no? Se cambia todo el proceso de, a veces, inercias que tenemos a nivel administrativo. Entonces, es muy importante que un nuevo currículo, pues también se acompañe de otros principios para poder integrar elementos como una evaluación mucho más flexible y mucho más compleja. Aquí otro punto importante, y sería muy bueno escuchar sus experiencias alrededor de ello, tiene que ver con la retroalimentación. Como les decía hace un momento, la retroalimentación es el punto central de una evaluación formativa. Sin embargo, la cuestión es, ¿cuáles son los momentos en los cuales vamos a dar retroalimentación? Cuando tengo a veces planes de estudio muy saturados, y entonces digo, o enseño o retroalimento. Y retroalimento de manera individual o retroalimento de manera grupal. ¿Y cómo puedo apoyar al mismo tiempo, en mi tiempo de la clase, que siempre es corto, cómo puedo apoyar al mismo tiempo a los estudiantes que van más avanzados y a los que requieren más apoyo, ¿no? ¿Cómo puedo hacer un seguimiento que sea personalizado y que permita que cada uno esté en un nivel pues mucho más avanzado del que estaba cuando yo inicié mi trabajo como docente? Entonces, pues son inquietudes que todavía nos deja el nuevo plan de estudios, son inquietudes que sobre la marcha que hay que ir discutiendo, ¿no?, como parte de los colectivos. Y hay algunos elementos que tienen que ver con no solo con la parte formal de la evaluación, sino con la parte también actitudinal de una evaluación. Que una evaluación es importante cuando uno mismo considera que tiene relevancia, ¿no?, y que permite ayudarnos a saber cómo estamos, cómo nos encontramos, cómo podemos hacer mejor las cosas, cómo podemos redefinir nuestro rumbo. Y eso es importante que lo consideremos no solo como docentes, sino también que se lo podamos transmitir a los estudiantes, ¿no? Que la evaluación significa algo. Nosotros aquí en la comisión hemos tenido algunas prestadoras de servicio social que nos han dicho, es que yo nunca había reflexionado hasta que llegué a los últimos semestres de la carrera acerca de la evaluación, ¿no? Siempre fue algo como, estudio, recibo algo, ok, ya termino el semestre, vuelvo a empezar, y depende mucho del criterio de cada maestro. Entonces, ¿por qué no hacer que también para los estudiantes signifique algo la evaluación? Aquí otro punto importante tiene que ver con tener claros los criterios, las exigencias, los requisitos de qué tenemos que hacer y cuáles son las metas a lograr, ¿no? A veces como estudiantes tampoco sabemos a qué se espera que llegue, ¿no? Actualmente, cuáles son los procesos de desarrollo de aprendizaje a los cuales tengo que llegar. A veces es algo que no comunicamos, ¿no? No tenemos claro cuál es el perfil que se espera de cuando concluya este periodo, ¿no? No, a veces no es claro para los estudiantes y tampoco es claro para los padres. Entonces, en la medida en la que podamos explicitar más estos criterios, pues podemos saber qué tanto nos acercamos o no a la meta. Otro elemento tiene que ver con este ambiente de confianza al que me refería también anteriormente, ¿no? La evaluación es como la terapia en el sentido de que requiere el establecimiento de una confianza. Si no hay una confianza mínima, un piso de confianza, entonces no me puedo mostrar al otro y pues no va a valorar cómo estoy en realidad. Entonces esto tiene que ver ya con una interacción mucho más personal que nos va a dar un piso firme para poder realizar una valoración y también que los juicios que hagamos sean mucho más sensibles, ¿no? Hay algunos principios de la evaluación y el primer principio de la evaluación, el primer principio ético de la evaluación es no dañar, ¿no? Si vas a hacer hay una frase que dice, si vas a hacer una mala evaluación, mejor no la hagas, porque puede tener consecuencias sobre las personas que las pueden dañar. Entonces hay que tener también en cuenta esta dimensión ética de la evaluación, que como les digo, a veces se ha dejado atrás por asumir una dimensión mucho más técnica. Y por último, como les decía, no hay que esperar como momentos cruciales de una evaluación, no hay que esperar el momento 1, el momento 2, el momento 3, sino que más bien hay que hacer una evaluación de manera continua y hay que darle valor a lo que observamos, aunque no esté en un instrumento, ¿no? Creo que tener en cuenta este juicio profesional y este valor de la observación que vamos desarrollando a lo largo de nuestra experiencia, pues es central para poder realizar una valoración de las y los estudiantes que finalmente les ayude a consolidar sus procesos de aprendizaje y a mejorar. Y bueno, por mi parte sería todo y quedo muy atenta a sus preguntas y comentarios.
Muchísimas gracias, maestra Mariana. Una excelente presentación. Agradecemos muchísimo su participación. Hemos tenido muchísimos comentarios, muchísimas felicitaciones. Los maestros están muy agradecidos por escuchar toda esta información que de repente no tenemos a la mano. ¿Gusta hacer algún comentario para finalizar la sesión?
Muchas gracias, Ale. Sí, pues en realidad creo que, el mundo de la evaluación a mí me parece fascinante, pero creo que a veces como iniciaba la presentación, a veces empezamos con una resistencia, o sea, le ponemos una barrera, pues por todas las experiencias que hemos tenido, ¿no? Todas las experiencias que hemos tenido, y entonces hacen que digamos, no, evaluación, no, mejor no le entro, mejor me paso del ladito, ¿no? Pero en la medida en la que podamos entender que la evaluación es como parte de nuestros procesos, o sea, es parte de nuestros procesos mentales, de nuestros procesos psicológicos, y además se puede desarrollar en un ambiente de confianza, y además nos puede llevar a otros lugares que no hemos experimentado, pues creo que podemos verla desde otra perspectiva, ¿no? Y finalmente también tomando en cuenta estos principios éticos que creo que ya se empiezan a discutir más y todavía tienen que ser más discutidos, ¿no? A nivel de las aulas, a nivel de las instituciones también.
Así es, así es. Pues muchísimas gracias, maestra Mariana. Agradecemos de nuevo su participación.
Muchas gracias.
Muy bien. Bueno, pues recordemos que los cuestionarios estarán abiertos hasta el 3 de noviembre y las constancias se entregarán en diciembre a través de las oficinas del PRONI en su entidad federativa. Si llegara a haber cualquier duda con relación a la constancia, por favor, acérquense a su coordinación. And with this inspiring session, we have reached the end of our Jornada Nacional 2023. We have now posted in the chat the link, and you are able to scan the QR code for today's quiz. Remember to answer it and register your attendance. Quick reminder, in English now, you will be receiving your certificate throughout the month of December. It has been a pleasure to be here with you, and I hope to see you in BBELT 2024. And before we invite Maestro José Mejía to officially bring this event to a close, on behalf of the British Council Mexico, I would like to thank Dirección General de Gestión Educativa, Escolar y Enfoque Territorial at CEP, which Maestro Mejía leads, for the opportunity to produce and jointly curate the academic programming at this fourth Jornada Nacional. It is a privilege for British Council to contribute to education and particularly ELT in Mexico throughout this type of activities. So please welcome Maestro José Mejía.
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes a todas, a todos y a todes. Llegamos al fin de esta jornada académica. Esos 3 días han sido muy intensos, las tardes. Uno de los primeros propósitos que tenía esta jornada es que tuviera un alcance pues bastante importante, y de acuerdo a lo que nos informan, tuvimos registrados más de 14,000 participantes. Esto sin duda es un aliciente muy importante para nosotros para que organicemos. Creo que una de las conclusiones de este evento es que son necesarios. Es necesario el diálogo, las propuestas que puedan hacer especialistas, que puedan hacer académicos, pero también es fundamental recuperar las experiencias de quienes desde los grupos en preescolar, primaria y secundaria están llevando a cabo la enseñanza del inglés. Creo que esto es muy, muy importante. Quiero primero ofrecer una disculpa a todas ustedes, a todos ustedes, pero de manera particular a Carla Joana, por la manera tan abrupta en que fue cortada su intervención. Esto lo consideramos para que no vuelva a suceder. Como responsables de este evento, nos parece que son, en la lógica de una escuela humanista, cuestiones que no deben de pasar, y vamos a tomar cartas en ello. El Programa Nacional de Inglés se encuentra en la transición de 2 programas de estudio, el programa 2017 y el programa 2022. Hay lógicas diferentes, lógicas curriculares diferentes, y para 2023 el Programa Nacional de Inglés quedó en esa lógica. Hemos ya dado algunas indicaciones a las entidades, a las instancias locales para orientar el desarrollo del programa en este ciclo escolar. Seguramente para el ciclo escolar 2023-2024 habrá algunos cambios que oportunamente se les habrá de señalar, sobre todo en términos de los referentes curriculares. En esta lógica, en esta intersección del cambio de programas, bueno, tratamos de abordar temas que acercaran la enseñanza del inglés hacia los planteamientos de la nueva escuela mexicana. En esa lógica, bueno, pues vimos cuestiones como la interculturalidad, que fue abordada en alguna de las jornadas, la interdisciplinariedad, inglés, la enseñanza del inglés basada en proyectos, cuestiones como la emancipación, la pedagogía crítica y otros elementos que buscan alinear al programa de inglés con la nueva propuesta curricular. Ha sido como que muy interesante, además de lo que dijeron nuestros participantes en las conferencias, en las mesas, los comentarios que ustedes han hecho a través del chat, como que da cuenta de la tonalidad que tiene el programa en términos de quienes participan en él, en términos de las regiones donde está implementado, y creo que la información que nos brindan estas participaciones de ustedes son muy importantes. Creo que es importante señalar que es importante las posturas que han expresado los especialistas, pero también es importante lo que ustedes dicen, lo que ustedes hacen. La propuesta curricular de la nueva escuela tiene ahora un componente de participación fundamental de las maestras, de los maestros, sobre todo de la experiencia que ya han acumulado y de los saberes que han construido a lo largo de sus trayectorias. Esto es importante ahora y eso también lo destacamos. Los contenidos de las conferencias se plantean como elementos para que ustedes abran una reflexión, no necesariamente para que se les diga qué hacer, sino plantearlas como elementos detonantes para repensar nuestra práctica. Es importante repensar cuál es el sentido de la enseñanza del inglés en nuestro país y sobre todo definir cómo podemos resignificar esa enseñanza. Esta idea del inglés como lenguaje internacional, ¿de dónde viene? ¿Hacia dónde nos lleva? ¿Es necesario replantear ese sentido? ¿Cómo lo tenemos que hacer? Estas son respuestas que se empiezan a construir desde abajo y en ellas su participación es importante. No me queda más que agradecer la participación de todas las de los panelistas, agradecer el soporte que nos han dado para este evento el Consejo Británico, la participación que tuvieron con los ponentes que participaron invitados por ellos. También queremos agradecer la participación de la Escuela Normal Superior de México, de la Dirección General de Educación Normal y Actualización del Magisterio en la Ciudad de México, de la Comisión Nacional para la Mejora de la Educación, la Mejoredu, pero fundamentalmente quiero agradecer la participación de todas, todos y todos ustedes. Quiero señalar que esta actividad permanecerá hasta el mes de este mes. Si conocen a algún maestro de inglés, algún asesor educativo especializado que no haya podido tomar la jornada, puede hacerlo entrando a los enlaces que les fueron comunicados para entrar a esta jornada académica. Es interesante ver cómo que en el transporte público también algunos de ustedes estuvieron dándole seguimiento a esta jornada, lo que da cuenta de su profesionalismo, lo que da cuenta de su entrega. Siendo las 17:52, agradezco la presencia de todos ustedes y damos por concluida esta jornada académica, que haya sido de utilidad para todas y todos ustedes. Muchas gracias.